Hey guys, Ryan here, and today I'm going to be bringing you another video in a tank I've never featured on the channel before, this time in the Badger. So, unlike what I usually do, where I kind of, from the get-go, explain what I'm doing, where I'm going and everything, I'm just going to leave the gameplay running in the back while I go through the tank, what I think of it, what I like, don't like, etc, and all the other stuff, because it's quite an interesting vehicle compared to the Tier 9. However, before we go into this video, I just want you all to know that I've only played 9 games so far, so my opinion is by no means my final one on the tank. So this Tier 10 after the Tortoise. Now, how does it feel going after the Tortoise? It's got a 30 km/h top speed compared to the 20 of the Tortoise, and a much better power to weight ratio. And it might just be me, but this thing just feels so much faster than a Tortoise, it's unbelievable. As I said, it's only 10 km/h top speed difference, but it just feels so much faster, which is a really nice thing, because it was painful playing the Tortoise speed-wise. The armour on the Badger, far superior. You won't just get penned through the superstructure like you would in the Tortoise, and even the lower plate's pretty strong against lower tier tanks and standard rounds. Still got 10 degrees of gun depression, still got decent gun arc left and right. However, the interesting part about this tank destroyer, as a tier 10 tank destroyer compared to a tier 9, is I would say it has a worse gun. Now what do I mean by that? Well, the Tortoise has a 120mm gun and this has a 123, I believe, so you get more alpha damage on this of 480 compared to the Tortoise's 400. However, you lose about 400 base DPM compared to the Tortoise. Now, that does sound like a lot, and it is, but at the same time, this thing has almost just over 2900 base DPM anyway, which for a tier 10 tank destroyer is still really good and up there. I think it's only the Object 263, which has about 20 more damage per minute than this, and the Object 268, which has about 120 more damage per minute than this. So I think they're the only two tank destroyers tier 10 that have more DPM than this thing does. So, although you get less DPM than a Taurus, it's still good DPM, and I personally think with the speed advantage and the armor advantage over a Tortoise, I think it's worth it. I do quite enjoy playing this tank a lot more than the Tortoise, I must admit. I will still say the Tortoise has the best gun in the game though. But this thing's gun, advantage wise, you get better alpha damage of 480 instead of 400. And you also get better standard penetration at 276 instead of 258 or 59, which I think the Tortoise gets. However, something of note for this TD, which you're going to see on the screen at the moment, I've got premium rounds loaded here because there's a tier 10 super heavy in front of me. And it's not the heaviest of super heavies, but watch. I just bounced with lower plate with a premium round in a tier 10 tank destroyer. That is not good. So things like 705A, E100, you're going to like struggle to pen them when they're angling really well, even with the premium. And obviously for a tier 10 tank destroyer, penetration is kind of what you want. So only 320 premium on the APCR rounds, and to put that into perspective, the Super Conqueror and the FE215B, two British heavy tanks at tier 10, actually have more penetration on their APCR shells than this does. They both have 326. So it's just an interesting tank, but a lot of people will probably prefer the Tortoise over this because of the gun, but I actually prefer the Badger. I prefer the armor, it just feels a lot faster. You can't permatrack people like you could in the Tortoise. I mean, you can permatrack people who don't have a repair crew, but with the Tortoise you can actually track people even if they had repairs. You can't do that in this tank. Bit of a shame. So, that's what I've got to say so far about the Badger, at least compared to a Tortoise. And you actually see here, this E100 doesn't have a repair crew, so I shoot him in the side, I change back to standard rounds, and this is going to be the example of me permatracking someone. So I'm going to use a 705A to hide my lower plate, and just, there you go, I think I've got about an 8.2 second reload on this for 480 alpha. And this game, as you've been watching in the background, has been a bit of a slugfest at really close range. So no sniping for me in this vehicle, because the reason I want this tank is because I thought the armor, the speed, the flexibility of the 10 degrees of gun depression, the gun arc, I thought it's a good tank for me because I like to play aggressive, and this seemed like a tank I'd be able to do that in. Something I'd like to know, with there being no artillery in this game, even though it feels a lot faster than the Tortoise, 30 kilometers an hour still is not kind of at that speed where you feel comfortable trying to dodge artillery, so bear that in mind. So as you'll see, I've managed to bounce 2800 damage, and I've done 4800 damage with 3 kills. Now, 2800 damage might not be the most damage blocked, however, I only got penned by the one shot from the T-57 Heavy premium shell, like 340 heat pen into my lower plate, and then the rest of the damage from the 705A ramming me, so... the tank held up pretty well, and some of the shells I was bouncing off the superstructure of this thing was heat shells from the 705A, so... I would say overall very good armor, and you can actually side scrape in it as well, because I think it's got about 100mm of side armor. So, as we get into the post-game results here, made hardly any silver because of those premium shells that were bouncing. 4800 damage, 2800 blocked. There's actually a mastery, which I'm surprised by for a tier 10 TD, but at the same time it was all close range fighting instead of sniping, and most people in TDs tend to snipe, which means less XP. Felix did really well, 3700 damage and 5 kills. I couldn't have won this game without him, like, not having a turret meant that him watching my back, as you saw on the minimap the entire game, if those enemies got behind me, it would have been over for me, so... proper good slugfest in the Badger, and at the moment, I must say I enjoy it more than the Tortoise, but I will concede the Tortoise has a better gun. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.